And I also welcome our second speaker. Of course, on the sequence, he is the first speaker. And those who knows Anjur, Dr. Anjur is in I think in the Azim Premji University, and he is well known in academic circle for his critical approach and questions, which is very important, like for basically which is important for the society. And he's talk he contributed in different way, in the sense like he worked on poverty. And uh, and this is very important topic today we are going to discuss, which is food for all and the role of urban canteen in community nutrition. I welcome you, Dr. Anjur. uh, and I also welcome
Thank you.
our head of the department, uh, who is, I think, the leading force and who is a motivating factor, who started this entire series of lecture, which we call multidisciplinary colloquy. This is the third chapter of that. I welcome, sir, and I also welcome Dr. Veronica Pala, who is associate professor and who is also the chairperson of today's program. And lastly, I welcome the the all the people joined from different parts of the country. I can see some of them. They are also, like, my seniors are also there, and students and research scholars. I welcome you all for this important topic. Not discussed very much, but ignored. But it is very important topic for like, I think, if you see the current scenario of Indian economy. And now I request all the uh, you know participants, those who wants to have some queries at the end of the session, they can use the chat box and give the questions answers. And at the end we will see and how we can ask from the our experts. So now I formally hand it over to our chairperson, Dr. Veronica Pala. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. Murtaza. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
So, good morning, everyone. It is my great pleasure to chair the third edition of the webinar series, Multidisciplinary Frontiers Colloquy. I'd like to inform and remind also that this webinar will be posted in the YouTube channel of the department, Seminar Eco Nehu. So in today's webinar, we will be discussing about something as basic as food. Yes, food. It is a matter of great concern that in how can we provide food for all? We know India has
Hello. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes, you are audible,
But madam
but
is not.
Bala is having some network issue, I think. So if this network issue continues, Dr. Murtaza, you can take over.
Okay. Okay, sir. Okay. So today's important. We are going to discuss very important topic on this third edition of our monthly activity, which is third colloquy on food for all, very important topic. And in that, we will discuss the role of urban canteen in community nutrition and why it is important. Hello.
Okay, Dr. Murtaza, Veronica Pala madam has, I think, joined back.
Okay, okay, fine, fine.
I'm sorry, my internet connection here in my place is unstable. I don't know how far I've spoken. I was talking, I suppose, about the
Yeah,
increase
first
in
two
agricultural
sentences were audible,
production.
madam. Dr. Pala, only the first two sentences were audible. So please start again.
Okay, okay, okay. So I was saying, am I audible now?
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Okay, okay. I'm very sorry about that. So I'm very, I was talking that it is a matter of great concern that we are in the second quarter of the 21st century, but we still have to discuss how can we provide food for all. And yes, India has now unprecedented level of agricultural production. In 2025, we have produced 357.73 million tons of food grains, and there is a strong shift towards high value crops, and agricultural exports rose to 51 billion US dollars, with processed food share increasing to 20%, signaling value added growth. This is from the press release of the Press Information Bureau, India's Resilient Production Systems in Agriculture, released on the 4th April 2026. Now, that's one side of the story. On the other side, we are ranked of 102nd out of 123 countries in the Global Hunger Index. And the GHI score is 25.8, which is classified as serious. Then, as per the NFHS 2019-21 report, 36% of under 5 children are stunted, 19% are wasted, and 32% are underweight. And 57% of women in the age group of 15 to 49 are anemic. So we have two sides of the scenario. On the one hand, unprecedented level of food grain production, while on the other, substantial proportion of the population suffer from hunger and malnutrition. Clearly, something is amiss. What is the reason? What can we do about it? So this brings us to today's topic, food for all, the role of urban canteens in community nutrition. Urban canteens are one part of the solution to the mismatch between high level of agricultural production and persistent hunger. To what extent do they solve the problem? Are they sustainable? And I'm sure there are many questions and issues. So to deliberate on this topic, we are very fortunate to have amongst us two heavyweights on the field of food security. They are heavyweights since they have gone out there, they have done extensive field work and disseminated their findings through numerous publications. So my brief introduction will not do justice to the work that they have done and the immense contributions that they have made to make India, well, less hungry. So to deliver the prologue, we have Dr. Anjor Bhaskar. He is with the Azim Premji University, Bengaluru, where he is the coordinator of the Sustainability Committee. Dr. Anjor Bhaskar has an MSc Economics from the University of Warwick, UK, and a PhD from TIS, Mumbai. His thesis was titled, Food for the Footloose, What Shapes the Practice and Performance of Social Protection Policies. He works at the crossroads of research and action in the fields of development and sustainability, focusing on policies that impact the most vulnerable. Both his research and practice have spanned rural and urban areas, across many states in India. As a college student, Dr. Anjor conducted a survey of the National Food for Work program in 2005, the precursor to the Manrega. Since then, his work has centered on the creation of decent and green jobs and livelihoods for women and men, sustainable environmental management and development, social protection, policy and governance, and the links between democracy and development. He co-authored the report, India State Hunger Index, Comparisons of Hunger Across States in 2009. He has to his credit many papers in books and journals, research reports and policy briefs, popular articles and commentaries in newspapers and magazines. Also, he has been involved in a number of action projects in waste management, education and training, and social protection. Dr. Anjor Bhaskar, it is a pleasure to have you here, and we look forward to listening to you and to have you as a keynote speaker in our webinar series very soon. Our main speaker in today's webinar is Professor Gumadi Sridevi from the School of Economics, University of Hyderabad. Professor Sridevi has done her MA and MPhil in economics from the University of Hyderabad. Her MPhil thesis was Some Effects of the New Economic Policy on Indian Food Security, and her PhD thesis was Food Security in the Context of Liberalization, a Case of Andhra Pradesh, from the Institute for Social and Economic Change, ISEC, Bangalore. Her research areas of interest include food security and nutrition, healthcare, gender and poverty, economics of discrimination, and climate change. She has completed many research projects on food security and nutrition, adaptation to climate change, and of course, other topics also. She has analyzed the role of the state in providing food security through extensive fieldwork, especially in Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Gujarat, Jharkhand, West Bengal, and Odisha. She has to her credit 2 edited books and 3 co-authored books and a number of papers in journals and edited books. In the past 6 years alone, 2020 to 2025, she has published more than 25 papers. Out of these, 20 are in journals. Also, she writes regularly for the electronic media, mass and popular media like newspapers and magazines. Professor Sridevi, we are grateful to you for sparing your valuable time to share your experiences and insights with us today. We look forward to your presentation and the interaction in today's webinar. So, both our speakers today have done their PhDs on food. Now, without any further ado, otherwise, this session will eat into food time, that is lunch. I call upon Dr. Anjor Bhaskar. Anjor, the screen is yours.
Thank you, Professor Pala and Professor Murtaza. It's a pleasure to be here and interacting with the colleagues and students from NEHU, in this and other places. And I think I'm very grateful to you for inviting me and also grateful to you for holding this colloquy on such an important topic. It's a topic that was Professor Sridevi and I have been working on, but it's not something that many people work on very often. It's a very ignored topic, even amongst those who have been working on agriculture and food security. This is a topic that many people don't bring up. So thank you for introducing it, despite its relevance. So let me present my screen and let me start. Can you see my screen?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Okay. So I'll start off here. And so I'll start with an image. This is Satya Prakash. He's a rickshaw puller, works in Ranchi, which is the capital city of the state of Jharkhand. I was sitting with him on a rickshaw when he was taking me from the railway station to my office when I used to work in Ranchi. I'll tell you some things about him, but before that, I have a question. And I know that people from Meghalaya and nearby states, and particularly students, don't like to talk much in class. I was warned about that, but I'll still ask a question. Where do you think he stays? Where do you think rickshaw pullers generally stay? Do you think they stay in their home? Where do you think they stay? Okay, so I'll give the answer. The answer is he stays on the rickshaw itself. His home is his rickshaw. And this is not just him. It's true for many, many rickshaw pullers across India. They stay on the rickshaw itself. That rickshaw is their home. Why does he do it? Because he has to send money home. His home is in the village and he has to send money there. So he prefers to save money rather than rent a place. He also has to pay off a loan that he took to build his house in his village. Okay? So he earns from riding the rickshaw. And as you know, rickshaw pulling can be a very variable. The income from it can be very variable. Some days there's business, some days there's no business. Some days it's raining, so nobody's going out. And imagine what it's like to stay out in the rain. But that's life. So he earns something between 100 to 200 rupees a day. And the average expense on food, because he's eating out, the only way to eat out for him is street food. So he has to eat at places like dhabas. This is the only recourse for food for him. And this was a couple of years ago, he would spend about 40 to 50 rupees a day on food, which is, you can understand, that's about 25% of his, something between 25 to 50% of his daily income goes on food. Similarly, this is Bablu. He's also a rickshaw puller. He's working in Jamshedpur. And similar to Satya Prakash, he also spends about 40 to 50 rupees a day on food. Okay. Now, why I'm telling you about these people? These people constitute what I call the footloose poor population. The footloose poor population are people who don't have a stable home to go back to for lunch and dinner. They're out on the street, their work is out on the streets, and they could be anywhere during lunchtime. Like most of us know that during lunchtime we'll be in campus and we can eat in the canteen or we can eat at dabba. During dinner we'll be back home, we'll have food in the mess or at home. We know we have a stable life. The footloose don't know. They don't know where they will be during breakfast, during lunch, during dinner. They're out there. They don't know when they'll go back to their family. They don't know. They don't have a stable home per se. So these are the footloose people. Now, we all know that there is a policy called the National Food Security Act. And the National Food Security Act was instituted to enable the realization of the right to food. In India, we have the Constitution gives us Article 21, which is the right to life with dignity. And the Supreme Court has now recognized that to have a right to life with dignity, to realize a right to life with dignity, you need to have something called the right to food. Without food, there is no life and there is no dignity. So that's why in 2013, the government of India, the parliament passed what is called the National Food Security Act. And National Food Security Act provides several ways to provide food security to people. But even the National Food Security Act ignores a large section of the population. Which is this large section of the population which the Food Security Act ignores? It is this footloose poor. Because the National Food Security Act, all the schemes like the public distribution system, the midday meals scheme, the Anganwadi scheme, all of these assume that you are staying in one place, you have a home where you will be delivered, you can get ration in your home, and there you can cook that food and consume it. Or you are in a place where your child is there going to a school, a stable school every day, and therefore they'll get midday meals. What about those people who don't have a home to go back to where they can cook food? How do they benefit from the National Food Security Act? So these people are ignored. It's in response to this gap in the National Food Security Act that policies like community kitchen programs, or what we are calling urban canteens here, have come up in several states to provide food security specifically to this group of footloose poor. There's also a case running in the Supreme Court to make these urban canteens mandatory for all states. In several states, these urban canteens or community kitchen programs are being run by self-help groups of women. The idea is this. The idea is that it would provide both employment and empowerment to women, poor women, but also provide food security to the urban footloose poor. Okay. Who is this urban footloose population, or the invisible footloose population? You can also call them the mobile, the unsettled, the out there, floating, or kitchenless population. Basically, the people who don't have access to a kitchen where they can go back and cook food. Okay. They include people like rickshaw pullers, migrant laborers, homeless people, including beggars, laborers, shop workers, dhaba workers, scrap shop workers, child workers, waste pickers, traders, drivers like auto rickshaw drivers, truck drivers, bus drivers, cab drivers, people who come to the city looking for work, people who come from the village to the city for work, like in high courts or lower courts, or they want to get someone treated in a hospital. So they come to, or they might come to government offices. Even those people have to spend long periods, often months in the city without any proper arrangements for food or shelter. We witnessed their vulnerability during the lockdown when they flocked the streets. You remember the lockdown 2020, 2021? It was this footloose population, because everything was shut down. Their life is on the street, and suddenly the streets are shut down. They can't be out on the streets. So they're vulnerable, and they had to walk back miles and miles and miles, often hundreds and thousands of miles back to their village, because everything had shut down for them. These are the people who are ignored by all food security measures. Recently, therefore, community kitchen programs are being initiated in some states to address their food security needs. Now, there's a lot of data studies to show that there is immense food insecurity among this specific group, that is the footloose urban poor. I'll give you a little bit about how these urban canteens have evolved. In fact, it's not an Indian innovation. These urban canteens actually, the first known ones, Professor Sridevi might also add to this, or might add to the information that I have. But the first one that I was able to find out was in 1930s in Peru. Something called Restaurantes Populares was started by the military ruler, Lieutenant Sanchez Cerro, and it was continued by his successor. In the 1940s, in Britain, there was something called British restaurants, or community feeding centers, which was started by Prime Minister Winston Churchill. Then many other, even in India, many other programs have started. The first ones in India, the first urban canteens in India were known to be the Annapurna cafeterias, started in Chennai, was started by Sarojini Varadappan. In 1995, the next one was in Maharashtra. These were the Zunka Bhakar scheme, and this was probably one of the biggest urban canteen scheme in India in 1995, the Zunka Bhakar scheme. In 2004, in Chhattisgarh, 2005, in the Jaipur Municipal Corporation started what is called the Akshay Kaleva Prema Dhar Yojana. In 2016, it was the Annapurna Rasoi Yojana in Rajasthan. 2010, Jana Ahar Yojana. So like that, almost every year or 2 years, some state has started an urban canteen program. So you can see newspaper articles whenever there's a new scheme that starts off in a state. These are images of Jharkhand, where I did my PhD work. These are images of the Mukhyamantri Dal Bhat Yojana in Jharkhand. And this is a rickshaw pillar who's just finished his meal at the Mukhyamantri Dal Bhat Yojana canteen in Jamshedpur in Jharkhand. This is another canteen at Ranchi railway station. These are people eating at different canteens. There are about 370 canteens across Jharkhand. Each of them provide a certain entitlement where you get 200 grams of rice, dal, chana, curry, soybean nuggets, one vegetable, and some achar chili. So there's a set menu in these canteens. In Jharkhand, the canteens are supposed to provide about 400 meals a day. It has evolved through many stages. In Jharkhand, there have been many changes in government. Since this scheme started in 2010, there have been many changes in government. And so with every change in government, there's a new innovation in the policy. But the core of the policy remains the same. I'll give you some quotes from people who eat at the canteens in Jharkhand. Anjali Loren, who's a worker at the canteen in Ranchi, she says, "My family doesn't go to sleep hungry anymore. My 12-year-old son now goes to school as a result of this canteen." An old man from Purulia district of West Bengal had come to Ranchi hospital, the hospital in Ranchi, for treatment of his son. His son suffered from brain tumor. They had come to RIMS 2 days before. He asked me till when the center remains open. He said for the last 2 days, he had come to the hospital to get his son treated. Okay, he said that the last 2 days he ate at Marwari Sansthan. This was a canteen near the hospital, since he didn't know about the Dal Bhat Kendra. He didn't know about this urban subsidized canteen. And he was regretting that he had to spend 10 rupees at the canteen that he was eating, which was the Marwari Sansthan. He had to spend 10 rupees for food, while at the urban government canteen, he could have gotten food for 5 rupees. And he was regretting, why did I not know about this urban canteen? If I had known about it, then I would not have spent 10 rupees on a meal. I would have got a meal for 5 rupees. This is the status of people. And these are the kind of people that these canteens serve. So most people whom I have met said that overall the policy is very good and should not be stopped, as it helped them feed themselves and often their families, even when they are unable to afford meals at other places. Okay. I'm not going to go into details of the policy, but, and these are, I'll just show you some images. This is one canteen in Doranda in Jharkhand. You can see behind the orange tempo, there's a little shed. That's a canteen. This is another shed and another canteen in Doranda. This is one rundown canteen at ITI bus stand in Ranchi. So, and this is again Bablu. So his normal expenditure on food would have been 40 to 50 rupees a day, but because of these canteens throughout the day, actually he can feed his entire family for 20 rupees only. Okay, so from, say, if he's earning 200 rupees a day from rickshaw pulling, he would have spent 25% of his income on just food. And now for himself only. And now he's able to feed his entire family for 20 rupees. That is the power of these community kitchens. And he's very happy. So he only eats at these urban canteens. Okay. I'll run over this, but I'll just conclude by saying that urban community kitchens can serve, it's been found that they can serve actually multiple objectives. Firstly, food and nutrition security for the footloose urban poor. For example, it can not only just, like we're showing, it can provide cheap meals, but also encourage nutrition security, encourage the consumption of more nutritious meals. Like, for instance, some of the canteens now promote the consumption of millets instead of just wheat and rice to promote food security and nutrition security. It also promotes equality, where canteens are well run, like in Chennai, in the Amma canteens. They also promote equality because rich and poor people of all castes and classes can come, sit together and eat together. And that's a wonderful thing. So it's promoting equality. In some canteens, the food is cooked by Dalit women. So that also promotes equality, because now all people of all castes and communities are eating food cooked by Dalits, and that's breaking tradition, breaking the culture where people would not eat food that is touched by Dalits. Some canteens can also promote sustainability. Some of you may know, the food system is actually one of the most important source of climate change. The food system is one of the most destructive forces in the world right now, which are causing climate change. So therefore, sustainability in the food system is extremely important, and these canteens can promote that through local procurement of local grains, fruits and vegetables, procuring organic supplies, and promoting organic foods. They can also encourage sustainable design. So for instance, at some canteens, you can have organic waste composting taking place, rainwater harvesting taking place. You can have green building designs, and these will promote sustainability, but also not just practice sustainability, but also promote the idea of sustainable designs. And finally, it leads to promotion of livelihoods through employment of women in SHGs. Thank you so much. This was my prologue, and I'll hand it over to Professor Sridevi.
Thank you so much, Dr. Anjor. And as I said earlier, you have to be the main speaker in another episode of this webinar. So thank you very much. And now I hand over the time to Professor Sridevi. Professor Sridevi, please.
Yeah. Can you see my PPT?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, madam. Yes, madam.
Yes, yes.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Let me thank Professor Varnika Pala for giving me this opportunity to be with you all today. And thank you, Murtaza, for introducing us in a very kind manner. And Dr. Ranjur, you have actually set the stage for why we need the urban canteens and what is the role of the urban canteens in reducing the food security as well as the nutrition security, basically, to provide the nutrition. Because when we talk about the food security, generally we always assume that the food security should be looked in terms of the calorie norms, but we ignore the nutrition security of the food. But now the debate and the larger argument says that it is essential to talk in terms of the nutrition security rather than the only to provide in the required calories, protein, and the fat, basically. Today's my whatever I'm trying to talk is based upon the one of our project which we have completed, and Professor Amalendu Jyotishi, who is also from Ajim Range, is part of this project, basically. So as a part of this project, we have looked at the midday meal program, as well as the Anganwadi centers, rural, urban, as well as the urban canteens, because in our first presentation of the project analysis, we were asked by the one of the experts, like how do you look at the food and nutrition security of the migrant labor, especially because urban areas are mostly dominated by the migrant labor. So that is when we thought we should include the component of the urban canteens. And although we looked at the role of the urban canteens in terms of providing the food and nutrition security, as well as the empowering the women or generating the employment and how sustainable they are. But for today's lecture, although we have focused in Gujarat, Jharkhand, and Madhya Pradesh, Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, and Bangalore, basically in the urban areas. But today's lecture, I'll be focusing mostly on the Hyderabad and the Bangalore Annapurna canteens and the Indiramma canteens and Amma canteens of the Chennai, basically focusing on the urban aspects. Then already Professor Varnika, while giving an introduction to this, she said that we are already actually producing in terms of the food grain production. We are much far away in terms of the physical availability of the food grains, because while talking about the food and the nutrition security, the four pillars, what we used to talk initially, availability, access, utilization, and the sustainability, basically talks in terms of the production. Now we moved in terms of the agency and how stable the economic access to food at the household level and the individual level, and with the given climate change, how the food and nutrition security aspects are viewed, basically. So in that context, in terms of the availability, we do not have any issues as of now. In terms of the economic access is what more concern basically. The Anju was also saying that the person said that why did I waste the 10 rupees instead of getting the food at the 5 rupees? So when the food grain prices are increasing and the cost of cooking is also increasing, then these state support programs play a very, very crucial role in providing the food security and the nutrition, especially to the marginalized communities as well as the poor also. So if you look at the current status of the 1.7 billion of the world's 2.2 billion people experiencing moderate or the severe food insecurity who live in the urban and the peri-urban areas basically. So the urban food insecurity issues are much vulnerable compared to the rural food insecurity issues. And the numbers also tells us that by 2050, I hope all of you are able to see the figure clearly.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Yeah. So by the projections of the FAO also very clearly shows that by 2030, because we have been talking about by 2030 to meet the sustainable development goals of the zero hunger and the empowerment of the women, and also reducing to the lowest level of the child malnutrition as one of the important aspects. So given that context, we see that there is going to be change, whether there is going to be a change in terms of the number of the undernourished people. But the projections very clearly shows that the number is going to be increasing throughout the world and much rapidly in terms of the Asian countries, basically. So and the global hunger index also, which is based upon the three important indicators, which is calculated. Although whenever the global hunger index releases its numbers, we always have a debate about the methodology, but the index includes the undernourishment and the child wasting, child stunting, and as well as the child mortality to measure the global hunger index. And the numbers shows very clearly that India is actually in terms of the hunger or in terms of the malnutrition, its numbers are high when you compare it with the other Asian countries. But when you look at the paradoxical situation is that we have the one side, children below 5 years suffering with the malnutrition, different types of the malnutrition, stunting, wasting, underweight, and the females in the reproductive age group 15 to 49 suffering with the different types of the anemia, and many of them are also having the low BMI also. But we also see the other side, the obesity as one of the important aspect also. That is because of the urbanization or change in the taste and the preferences and availability of the huge availability of the processed food also basically. So while food prices remain relatively low in India, a healthy diet is unaffordable to nearly 3/4 of the people given their low incomes. And the updated projections also show that the number of the people going to suffer with the different types of the malnutrition is also going to increase basically. So the one of the study which basically says that the preparing meal at home cost has also increased by 65% in last 5 years, but the rise in the wages was just 28 to 37%. So hunger, which is the inability to acquire, consume an adequate quality and the sufficient quantity of the food to have healthy and the productive life. So food security needs to be seen as a function of the welfare. It is as Anju already said, that there is an important aspect of the rights associated when we are talking about the food and the nutrition security. Similarly, when we are talking in terms of the gender perspective, also gender justice with the right perspective to have healthy and the food is also essential. So then when we look at the definition of the food security, the definition has been changing over the time period. Initially, we were talking about the food security exists when all people at all times have the physical, social, and the economic access to the sufficient, safe, and the nutritious food. Their dietary needs and the food preferences for an active and the healthy life. But later, we started elaborating on the importance of the agency for the food security. Agency can be defined as improving the rights and the capabilities. When we are talking about the agency, there comes the role of the state more importantly in terms of the ICDS or the NGNREJ programs and midday meal program, PDS, and the urban canteens. Because it is essential to provide the food. It is the role of the state to provide the essential food for the individuals of the state. So when we are talking about the role of the state, the national level policies are anyway important, but it is also important to talk about the local policies also. Like when we are talking about the local policies, the most important comes the availability of the urban canteens for the different communities. When we talk about the public distribution system, we say that there are targeting errors associated with the public distribution system. As it was already mentioned, the Food Security Act also is associated with the certain kind of the targeting errors. But the urban canteens or the community kitchens, what we are talking, do not have any kind of a tag. Those who want to avail the food can actually get into the canteens. Although, like when we get into the Telangana government's GHMC website, it says that the urban canteens, the main aim or the objective is to provide the food to the marginalized and the poor communities. Agreed, but there is no taboo that it is not accessible to the others. So hence these local initiatives are essential to address the existing food insecurity and the nutrition insecurity issues also. So if you look at the Hunger Watch report, which was conducted in different states, basically says that even having the public distribution cards or the below poverty line cards, that 90% of the households that had ration cards said they received some food grains, and 25% of those eligible said they did not receive any benefits of the midday meal scheme and integrated child development service programs during the second phase of the pandemic. Basically, I was already mentioning previously that the cost of cooking food has also increased. One side, the paradoxical situation is there. We have the stocks, physical stocks of the rice, wheat, and the various other food grains. But the other side, we also see that there are many people who are not able to have the access 3-day meal also. So more than 40% of the Indians skip their breakfast, lunch, or the dinner, or they follow different coping strategies to overcome the food insecurity. The food insecurity can be chronic in nature or transitory in nature. The transitory nature can be overcome with the support of the state or the civil societies or the various other community-based arrangements. But the major problem is with the chronic food insecurity, where people or the individuals suffer with the hunger for a longer duration, basically. So the Right to Food campaign also documented over 100 hunger-related deaths from across the country based on media reports and the fact-finding investigations between 2015 and 19. Because when a question was asked in the parliament, we heard that there are no hunger-related deaths in case of India, but the other organizations or the research bodies clearly tells us that there are hunger-related deaths still taking place in the context of India. Even during the first phase of the corona also, although we have the corona-related deaths, but when certain NGOs collected the information about the 100 deaths, non-corona 1,000 deaths, out of 1,000, the majority of the deaths are because of lack of the access to the food during that particular period. So the existing inequalities in the society, what I say is that the social discrimination or access to the resource is also one of the reasons for the continuous existence of the food and the nutrition insecurity of the certain groups. Because the question is why certain groups have the higher intensity of the malnutrition. Like anyway, later stage I'll be showing the data also. But if you look at the NFHS 4, 5 or 3, the number of people suffering with the malnutrition, especially children below 5 years, are coming from the scheduled tribe and the scheduled caste households when we compare it with the others. So it is essential to provide the education and employment opportunities and provide economic access to the various resources is important to handle the food and the nutrition security in the long run. So when we come to the changing context of the food security over the time period, I have already mentioned that we were actually, after the independence, we are more concerned about increasing the food grain production. But after increasing the food grain production with the Green Revolution, still we had the 70% of the population suffering with the food poverty. Then the questions were raised that is when the economic access to food was given importance. That is where we started talking about the Food for Work program, or spreading the public distribution system to the rural areas also, and going for the universal public distribution system also. So then later in 90s, we could see that the food has become a right of an individual. That rights approach actually led to the National Food Security Act of 2013. And now we are talking about the role of the agency and how the availability, economic access, utilization, stability, leading to the agency and the sustainability. Because the availability in terms of both economic and the physical availability should be sustainable to talk about the zero hunger in the future, basically. And the most importantly, now it is also important the individual should have a sovereignty to choose what they want to eat. Others cannot decide what they have to eat. So each geographical location has a different climatical conditions, which will be leading to the different food habits, basically. So the culture of the food is also an important aspect while talking about the nutrition security. So when we look at the systematic approach to the nutrition, we generally follow the association between the food systems, health system, and social protection system, which ultimately will be leading to the better health and the nutrition, because the children who have the better nutrition will be having the higher level of the cognitive skills, and then in the long run they have the higher level of the productivity, wherein the nation will have the higher economic growth. But when we look at the physical access to the food grains, basically we see that the per capita availability is much higher than what is actually desired by the ICMR norms. But in case of the per capita net availability of the pulses, we see that there is a deficit in terms of what is available and what is actually norms give us. And when we look at the various studies and the projections, basically they say that very clearly until 2025 we may not have any kind of the deficit, but by 2050 we see that there is going to be a deficit in terms of the physical access to the food grain. One of the important reasons is that the food demand is not only for the human consumption, but there is also now increased demand for the feed, also feed in terms of the aqua feed or poultry feed. So wherein most of the millets also get into the feed market. So then the question is now, we are although very happy that we do not have any kind of the deficit now, but how are we going to handle by 2050 with the given different demand requirements and with the changes in the climate change, changes in the cropping pattern, as well as changes in the culture, as well as the demand patterns of the food, basically. So when we are talking about the economic access to food, actually it depends upon the three important indicators, that is the prices of the food grains and the employment level or the income purchasing power of the people. And the third important aspect is the state support programs, basically public distribution system, because the PDS supplies the price at a much lower rate when we compare it with the in some states, even now like Tamil Nadu, it is a universal public distribution system where they try to provide the food to the poorest of the poor at the zero price, basically. And for others in Telangana, it is supplied at the 2 rupees kg rice, and a family of the average family of the 4 members would be receiving the 20 kgs of the rice, basically. So when we see that the relative price trend is also highly volatile of late because of the various other influencing factors also. So the one of the important reasons why the cost of the cooking has also gone up is there is a volatility in prices of these commodities, as well as there is an increase in the prices of the food grains. So when we talk about the daily wage earning across the sectors of the employment, the real wages have not increased at a higher rate, basically, although the food inflation has been increasing. So now the question is, can the marginalized groups and the vulnerable groups of the urban areas will be able to access the food with the increased prices? So but interestingly, when we look at the poverty in terms of the income poverty using the available NSS World data, by using the Rangarajan methodology or the Tendulkar methodology, there is a huge decline both in terms of the rural and the urban areas over the time period in terms of the income poverty. Whatever method we use it, we see that there is a decline. But the paradoxical situation is that there is an increase in the food poverty, although there is a decrease in the income poverty. Because when we look at the calorie, protein, fats, we also see that there is a positive change in terms of the calorie and the protein availability and the fats also. So the percent of energy derived from the various food groups in urban adults in India is mostly the cereals and the millets play an important role in providing the calorie, protein, as well as the fat. Although the average intake of the various food groups in urban India is the plate should be the right side, but we still consume the larger portion of the plate is filled with the cereals, basically. So there is a deviation of the average per capita calorie intake, even with the increase in the physical access to the food grains, basically. And the one of the important study from the Center for Economic Data Analysis, Kulwinder Singh's, basically shows that the same whatever we have looked in terms of the data, trying to say that there is an increase in the food grain production, but the per capita monthly cereal consumption has declined significantly in both rural as well as in the urban areas also. And the food expenditure has also dropped from the 63% to the 47%. That is because there is also increased expenditure levels for the education, healthcare, and the other aspects also. Now the question is, if this is the change we are expected, we are not bothered more about the high income groups. What happens to the low income groups when there is a change in the prices, or when there is a change in the state support programs? Actually, will they be able to meet actually the required the required norms of the nutrition? And when we look at the public distribution system, it is very clear that the public PDS plays a very important role in providing the economic access to the food over the years. And if you look at the Telangana or Andhra Pradesh, the utilization is around 95% of the households. Actually, those who are having the fair price cards have been utilizing the public distribution system. Then the question is the third component of the whole argument of the nutrition. We are okay with the food security in terms of the physical access and the economic access, but what happens to the nutrition security of the children? And the NFHS 4 and the 5 very clearly shows that the 16 states have shown in different types, whether it is stunted, wasting, underweight, there is an increase in the number of the malnutrition, basically. So there is an increase in the malnutrition in terms of the chronic nutrition insecurity also. And when we try to look in terms of the association between the states who are having the high level of the per capita income and the level of the malnutrition of the children below 5 years, it is interesting to see that the Maharashtra, which has the highest per capita income, similarly Telangana also has the highest per capita income. We see that the children wasted is also very high in these two particular states, especially Maharashtra, it is the much higher. So when we look at the various indicators, because it is also important children under the age of the 5 months exclusively breastfed also, because the analysis very clearly says that children who has the breastfeeding are better nourished when compared with the others. But then the question is, majority of the marginalized groups, women coming from the scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, and OBC, after the delivery, they have to get into the labor market as a casual labor or agricultural labor. So will they be able to actually provide the feeding to the children is the another important question. So when we look at the women BMI levels below normal are higher when we compare it to the male. So there exists the gender differences as well as in terms of the social group wise and the religious wise, there exist the differences in terms of the food and the nutrition security of the different indicators. So as I already mentioned, that when we look at these numbers, it is very clear that in terms of stunting, wasting, underweight, scheduled caste and the scheduled tribe children has the highest levels of the malnutrition when compared with the others. So when we try to classify, I'll skip these, but classify based upon the various rounds of the NFHS and the CNNS data, we see that some of the states, although there is a drastic improvement in terms of the economic indicators, but we see some of the states are the highly nutritionally insecure states, and one among is the Bihar. And some of the states have moved from the high level of the malnutrition to the middle and middle to the low level, and some states remain as they are over the last 30 years basically. So the problem nevertheless remains largely hidden a faceless and the silent issue. And it is also true that we do not want to say that we are actually suffering with the food insecurity, because there is certain kind of the shame is associated to say that we are suffering with the food and the nutritional insecurity. So food insecurity and the physical or the mental ill health, poor performance in studies, and difficulties navigating the social relationships on campus, shame associated with the food insecurity was an especially notable issue, not only in the Indian context, it is also in the other countries' context also. So I think I will. These are some of the characteristics of the health, fertility, and the nutrition of the woman. Why I wanted to show you the some of the indicators of the woman, because the woman's level of the mother's level of education is positively associated with the nutritional security of the child. And second, the woman's education is also associated positively with the diet diversification of the household also. Then when we are talking about the sustainable development goals, also the goal number 1, the no poverty and zero hunger, clean water and sanitation, because to have the better nutrition security and to have the sustainable food security, it is also important the household should have access to the clean water as well as the sanitation also. So now coming to the urban canteens, already Ajay has given the context of the urban canteens in the India as well as the rest of the world also. So rest of the world also, when we look at the most important example is also Mexico, where they have seen a drastic decline in terms of the poverty because of the providing access to the urban canteens there. So we have different states, because it is these urban canteens are basically a local state support program rather than a national support. So different states have the different kind of rules as well as the menu associated with it. So as we are more concerned about the Karnataka, Tamil Nadu and the Telangana, it was initiated these urban canteens in these states at the different years, basically with the different menus. If you look at the Karnataka, they have the breakfast, lunch, and also dinner is now available. But whereas in the case of the Telangana, the urban canteens, basically Annapurna canteens, they will only provide lunch at a subsidized price of the 5 rupees, and there is no choice. Basically, the menu remains to be same more or less every day. So the Telangana malnutrition indicators, as I have already shown it, I think I need not talk about it. So the most important aspect is the urban canteens, who are actually accessing them and why do they access. When we talk about the Annapurna canteens, the location is also very important. Like when we did the field work for the Hyderabad urban canteens, basically, it is interesting to know that the urban canteens located near the high-tech city or the software companies where they are located, their physical appearance is different and there is a space to sit and eat, basically. And these urban canteens are actually accessed by the students and some of the employees, security people, and we also have noticed that some of them actually packing the sambar and the curry for the night dinner also, because they say that 5 rupees, what do we get? They're getting a good amount of the rice, sambar, and the one vegetable curry every day. The menu remains to be same. So this is the well-established PPP model, GHMC Hare Krishna Charitable Foundation. Actually, it is cooked at the common kitchen and supplied to the various urban canteens located at the different places. So now the when we look at the social group composition and the occupational distribution of the consumers visiting, as well as the managers who run these urban canteens, 99% are the male members basically, and majority of them are coming the different social backgrounds who run. But we have not come across any female managers running these urban canteens. Interestingly, those who clean the plates or in some canteens, those who are actually serving are the female members. And when we look at who are actually visiting these canteens in terms of the social group wise, actually Anju made one statement that these canteens, even if Dalit women are cooking, there is no discrimination. But actually, when we did the study in the case of the Amma canteens in Chennai, we were very clearly told that we should not mention or we should not ask the caste of the women who are actually cooking, because if the caste is known, it may lead to the that people may not visit those canteens. So still the caste discrimination exists even in the urban canteens also. And we also have the studies from the IDS very clearly showing that when midday meal program, Dalit women are actually cooking, it is not eaten by the dominant social group kids in the school basically. So because the Amit Thorat and their study also shows that still in urban India, there is a practice of the untouchability. So given given certain the restrictions of the gender restrictions in Annapurna canteens of the Telangana, but we see that the majority of them are actually utilizing these urban canteens, especially it is nothing to do with whether they are actually poor or only the migrant labor. We have also seen that some of the medical students and engineering students regularly visiting these urban canteens and having the food, because Hare Rama Hare Krishna mission also says that they supply in terms of measuring certain protein and the calorie requirements also. But we have not seen the diversification or inclusion of the millets, because some of the consumers were saying that it is also, they can also add the another vegetable or include the millets, and even if they rice, the price is also okay, because they will not get anything if they wanted to buy in the other hotels, or the street food is also much expensive compared to these urban canteens basically. So when we come to the Amma canteens also, so Amma canteens is one of the successful story of the self-help group run canteens in Tamil Nadu, but the study is mainly focused in the Chennai basically. So it has the different menus and they have their own kitchens. That is one of the important aspect of the success of this Amma canteens in Tamil Nadu, is that they have their own kitchen and food is cooked freshly. Whereas in the case of the Annapurna urban canteens, food is cooked at the centralized kitchen and it is supplied by 11 o'clock, and there is a fixed timing. The food is available from 11 to 1:30 or 2 o'clock. Sometimes if there is a overcrowding, then food is they close it much earlier than the actual closing time also. There was no breakfast and dinner is available there. But in the case of the Amma canteens, because they have their own kitchens and run by the self-help groups women, it has the three different impacts basically. One, they not only provide the livelihood security to the women, It also led to the empowerment of the woman also in terms of the decision making at the household level, and they're actually sending their children to the schools, and they're having the better health facility, whatever it may be. And it also led to the providing the better nutrition security, because there are different menus and the choices are available, and the food is much cheaperly available, breakfast, lunch, and the dinner also. So when we look at the impact of these Amma canteens, we see that there is a positive impact on the women empowerment, and in terms of generating the employment opportunities to the females, and it has the intergenerational mobility because of this association of the women with these canteens. And they're also much better in terms of providing the food security as well as a part of the nutritional security also. So then the NIN actually asked, this is what we are supposed to. But the urban canteens, what we are talking about, has the very less diet diversity. Even in the case of the Bangalore, and in the case of the Indirama canteens in Bangalore and the Amma canteens in the case of Tamil Nadu, we see there is a certain amount of the diet diversity, because there is some choices existing. And these canteens are actually utilized not only by the elders or the middle-aged group, but it is also used by the school children. Every day they come to some of these canteens to have their breakfast and pack the same breakfast for the afternoon lunch also. So when we see that, as I already mentioned, that there is an association of the diet diversification and the anemia. So if we have the inclusion of the millets in these urban canteens or in the midday meal program, it is very sure that there is going to be positive impact in reducing the malnutrition. And it also have the greater impact on anemia also. So in that context, we were trying to look at the civil society who are actually looking in terms of the diet diversity. So in that particular, as a case study of Bandi, which is actually close to our own University of Hyderabad, and then Satya funded this particular project, and they supply the millet food every day morning, basically. So cooked millet food, and many people utilizes this. So they have also established the educational institutions and the training programs where they supply actually millet for those children also. Similarly, the case study of the civil society of the Umarani Tawamanji Foundation also, where they supply the much nutritious and the diversified food to the poor also. And when those two examples are with reference to the civil society, but we also see that the Odisha government has also introduced initially the fish as a part of the ICDS program, dried fish, and then but now they actually stopped it. In the case of Assam, we see that when they initiated inclusion of the dried fish powder for the children below 5 years, basically through the ICDS, they could see that within the 3 months of the use of the change of the diet, they see that there is a positive impact in terms of the nutritional indicators, basically. So this basically calls us that providing the food through the various state support programs is essential, as majority of the marginalized groups are dependent upon these programs. It is also important that these programs should also focus on the diet diversification, such as inclusion of the millets, essentially, because it will act as an important provider for the nutrition. It also improves the levels of the hemoglobin or the iron content, which actually reduces the anemia also. So and also inclusion of the dried fish powder in some of these programs, because the most important aspect now is that how do you reduce the malnutrition of the children below 5 years, and how do you handle the reproductive age group of the women's anemia, whose numbers are very, very high, because these two will have the huge impact in the long run on the nation's productivity also. So with the given all those positive aspects of the urban canteens, it is also true that lack of infrastructure is also one of the important aspect why many of the people are not able to use the urban canteens, especially in the case of the Hyderabad, and also the cleanliness, the availability of the drinking water facilities, as well as the diet, different variety, and the timings, sanitation facility, and as I said already, the gender coverage, because associating self-help groups for these urban canteens is essential to have a better positive impact on the nutrition security as well as the intergenerational mobility also. So the second sustainable development goal, zero hunger by 2030, is difficult to achieve at the current pace of the existing malnutrition levels of the different countries. So the poor diets and resulting malnutrition are not simply a matter of the personal choice. Most people cannot access an affordable, healthy diet for the productive life. Hence, it is important that we actually focus on the local programs such as the urban canteens or the community kitchens, associating the self-help groups or the women in particular. Interestingly, the Telangana government 1 month back has started the rural urban food canteens with the help of the self-help groups, basically, where every rural canteen will be having their own kitchen. So this is what I just wanted to bring in, the role of the state in terms of the providing the food and nutrition security for the different social groups. And we see that there is a very positive impact on food security, but we also see that there is not much impact in terms of the nutritional security. So hence, it is also important that these urban community canteens or the kitchens should focus on the diet diversification, not only the urban and the rural canteens, but also various state support programs. It is very essential to have the diet diversity. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Sridevi, for that insightful and beautiful presentation. And I will take just a little time to summarize. I will not take much time. I'd like to give more time for the Q&A. There are a number of questions already I can see. And so I'd like to bring out the point that Dr. Anjor has brought out, that the National Food Security Act ignores the food loose. It provides food security for people who are settled, who have a home, and who have kitchens basically. So that is a very important point to be noted. And since substantial proportion of our population are migrants and are informal workers, and they are footloose, and more people are joining this category. So that is a very important point to note. And Professor Sridevi has highlighted, has shown deeper insights into the situation of malnutrition in the country and the need for urban canteens. However, these urban canteens satisfy the hunger only. They do not take much care of the nutritional needs of the people. So with these few words, I thank both the speakers, and now I hand over to Dr. Murtaza for the Q&A. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. Thank you both the speaker, I think, for this wonderful deliberation. Now, we have received some questions, and total are around 8. So what I'll do, I'll go one by one, and then speaker can address these question of the people. So number one, there is one question from Shubhankar Sharma. That is, how do you see the urban canteen through the lens of class positionality and intersectionality? That is the question to Dr. Anjur. And the second question is to Madam Sridevi from Miss Pratibha, who is a student in our department. She's asking about, do we have any committee like that? Is there any working group who is working on these issues? Because what we are observing, there are quite drastic, realities. On the one hand, we are saying we are, top performing economy. Of course we are, but we are also having these issues of food insecurity, stunting, wasting. India is the largest, house of wasting population under age of 5. That is the second question. Third question is from Pravasa, Dr. Pravasa from Ajim Premji. She is mentioning, this is to Madam Sridevi, gender inequality in nutrition. She is pointing to your one of your slide, and she is asking about what are the main reasons for that. What are the main reasons? And one question is from Dr. Rajiv Sutratar from Department of Economics, NEHU, is asking how many states are having the scheme of urban food canteen. That is, and the related question is like, what is the presence of these urban canteens in Northeast, with special reference to Meghalaya? Especially, he asked about the Meghalaya, a student from our department, Kingbok Hamsid. And lastly, from one question from Amrita Basumutari, who is a research scholar in our department. She's asking, since both of you have done the field survey, so what are the major challenges of running these canteens? And with your permission, I also want to ask one question. Let's say going forward, since the urbanization is continue to grow, as per 2011, the total rural population is around 68, and the new survey will come, new census will come. But we are observing that our urbanization is, it will be increasing. So when urbanization will be increasing, there will be more people migrating from rural area to urban area. And then in that scenario, what will be the role of these urban canteens? Anyone start from like...
Anju, would you like to respond first? Because first question was yours.
Sure, maybe I'll respond about the challenges. The challenges,
Yeah, I think you have already responded to that positionality and intersectionality.
Yes.
So up to you.
Yeah. So that I've already messaged in the group. I think but the broad idea there about, so there was a question about class, would basically people from upper classes, if the canteens are meant for primarily for people who are poor or vulnerable, would people from upper classes also be okay to eat at such canteens? Because as I mentioned, one of the objectives of these canteens, or one of the outcomes of such canteens, can be that people from different classes come together and sort of promotes fraternity and equality among people. And as I've written, there's an article by Harsh Mandar who's writing about the Amma canteens in Tamil Nadu, where people, IT professionals, students, engineering students, all kinds of people are eating along with informal workers. So it's a nice sight to see. But that is possible in Chennai, and I think Professor Sridevi has also talked about the Amma canteens in Tamil Nadu. But I think that's possible only because the quality of these canteens is so good, the infrastructure is so good, the food is so good that people, irrespective of their class, want to go and eat there. Not because it's cheap, but because it's good. So of course, the factor that it's cheap is an added advantage. But if the quality is so good that anyone would want to eat there, then people would come irrespective of caste, class, and they would eat there. I mean, even some things like South India, the darshinis in South India are kind of like that, which you don't see much in North India. The eateries are very divided. The poor people go to dhabas and the rich people will go to restaurants. There are no darshini type concepts where everybody will come together. So Amma canteens is that a step forward where you get very cheap food. So very poor people can also come and eat there, but because they're good quality, rich people will also come and eat there together. So quality is important, which is actually not maintained in many of the other programs. So whereas many of the other state programs have been inspired by the Amma Canteen program, many of them have not maybe devoted the kind of resources that Amma canteens have devoted. Therefore, the quality is not as good as these canteens, and therefore many of them don't achieve this objective of people from different classes coming and sitting and eating together. But of course, Professor Sridevi would also be able to talk more about this. The second question about challenges in running canteens. There, it's a huge issue, and basically it's an operational challenge. It's a challenge of resources. The state government which is running these canteens has to allocate sufficient resources to be able to run the canteens. But once it allocates these resources, it's also about operations. So in many of the states, in fact, in most states, the canteens are outsourced, whether it's to women-run SHGs or it's to agencies like Akshay Patra or it's to NGOs or contractors. But it's outsourced. Very few places is it actually run by the state or the government itself. I don't know of any place where it's actually run by the state government itself. So when it's outsourced, there is a question of monitoring. How do you monitor? How do you ensure that firstly they have the resources? So for instance, in Jharkhand, the state government is responsible for providing rice and soybean. These are the only two things that the state government provides to the canteens, and then SHGs have to manage everything. Now, SHGs, of course, these are in the name SHG. They're supposed to be non-for-profit, but they're obviously profit-making. They want to earn the maximum they can from these canteens. And so what they do is that it's in their incentive. They're getting food to feed 400 people in a day. Okay, they're getting rice and soybean to feed 400 people in a day. But they want to maximize profit. So what do? They reduce the quality so much, they compromise on quality so much that the number of people eating is so low. It's in some cases it's like 25 people in a day, some cases it's 50 people in a day. And this benefits them. They benefit from the fact that fewer people are eating at the canteen so that they can save on the rice and the soybean, on the chana that is provided by the government and sell that in the black market, in the open market. So there is a perverse incentive working there so that the canteen operators actually benefit if the canteen quality is so bad that people don't come. If entire day only 1 or 2 people come to eat at the canteen, it's actually beneficial for the SHGs which are operating the canteen. So operations is very important, and states often don't get the operations right, and that leads to problems in the way the canteens are maintained, managed, and the quality of food and operations at the canteen. That's it from me. Professor Sridevi, over to you.
Thank you. So, do you have any committees to run these urban canteens or to look at the nutrition security is one of the questions, right? So wherever we have looked these urban canteens, although their urban canteens are existing in 17 states as of now, I think in Northeast, none of the states, as far as we know, urban canteens are not there. Of course, the civil society will be running some of the, they will be providing the food, just like Buvabandi and the others. But state-supported urban canteens are not there in the northeastern states. So here, the urban canteens, why we are basically emphasizing on the role of the state or the local bodies is that when the civil society provides, it is a kind of a charity or something different. But it is when state provides, it becomes the right of the individual to have access to it, basically. So that is where we are not talking in terms of the class or the caste or in terms of the gender. But when we talk in terms of who are actually accessing these urban canteens, especially in Hyderabad, we find that majority of them, 85% of them, are the male members of different age groups, basically. And some of the children will also be accessing it. But this program is run with the help of the Hare Rama Hare Krishna mission and the GHMC. So there are no separate committees to look into what is the menu and all that. The menu is actually given by the Hare Rama Hare Krishna by considering what is the nutritional component. They will be able to provide it, basically. In the case of the Bangalore Indiramma canteens also, it is actually run by the state. And interestingly, in the case of Tamil Nadu, in the case of Karnataka, even in the case of Telangana, now in Andhra Pradesh, where Anna canteens have been started, all these are also politically a very important issues also. So when as soon as the chief minister, the new chief minister has to go over the Tamil Nadu, he actually emphasized on the strengthening of the Amma canteens, because the previous governments there is a gap between the allocation of the funds and when they receive it also, basically. So the supply of the food material, basically. So even in the case of the Karnataka also, the Indiramma canteens was one of the important political issue. Even to that extent, the public distribution system is also one of the important political agenda also. The then Chief Minister came to power in Andhra Pradesh. One of the major aspect of his campaign was that he will be providing to all the poor the rice, 2 rupees kg rice, basically in 1987. So all these also play an important role in terms of economically, politically, as well as social impact wise also. So gender inequality, nutrition, and what are the major reasons basically we find is that although we assume that the woman, maybe as a migrant labor or the regular employed, when they have access to the income or they're also earning, but the decision making at the household may not be their choice, what to cook, how to cook, when to cook. And the other important aspect, although 90s, we see a huge literature where we say that intra-household inequality exists in terms of the food consumption as well as the distribution also. There's a huge literature regarding that. But later we see that intra-household distribution patterns have changed now, but still women in the house eat at a later stage. And second, majority of the marginalized women who are the agriculture labor or the casual labor have high level of the anemia also. So in that context, even the nutritional security will also be low when we compare it with the others also. So the gender norms still play an important role at the household level, what to eat and when to eat also. And that is the reason we have been arguing that gender justice rights approach is important while talking about the food and nutrition security of the females. Then how many states have like actually, if the data is so frequently changing with reference to these urban canteens, but 17 states have as of now, but some of the states it suddenly it will be non-functional also. Like in Andhra Pradesh, after the bifurcation, Andhra Pradesh has initially the Anna canteens, and later on it was stopped, and again now it was revamped basically. So what are the major channels and challenges in running these canteens is the budget allocation. The most important is the budget allocation and allocation of the raw materials also. That is the major constraint. And the second constraint, the space basically, where they are actually allocated, and what kind of the drinking water and the sanitation facility. As I said, in Hyderabad, there were certain areas where the urban canteens are like everybody have the perfect access, they can sit and eat. But there are also urban canteens, especially in Bhopal, some of the canteens associated near the bus stops and the market yards. It is a single small room and there is no space to sit and eat, whatever it may be. And the hygiene is also not seen in those areas. The other is it should be made as because the food is actually cooked at the common kitchen, sometimes the quality of the food may not be so good to have the access. So it is important to have their own kitchens for these urban canteens, at least not if everybody in a geographical location, certain radius, they should have the common kitchen. Then the urban canteens play an important role in terms of the providing the food security as well as the nutrition security, provided there is a diet diversity. I hope I have answered all the questions.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And thank you, Dr. Anju, for taking up all the questions. And it's wonderful to have you. I think technology made it possible in a remote area like Northeast. We are able to access such resource. We are very thankful to you, both of you, Professor Sridevi and Dr. Anju Bhaskar. And to conclude the session, I would like to call one of the research scholar, Ms. Amrita Basumatari, to give formal vote of thanks.
So, thank you, sir. As we have come to the end of today's enriching webinar on this topic of food for all and the role of urban canteens in community nutrition, it gives me great pleasure to propose the vote of thanks. First and foremost, I would like to express our heartfelt gratitude to Professor Gumadi Sridevi for her insightful and inspiring presentation and discussion. Your discussion, ma'am, on nutritional challenges faced in India, particularly the paradox of rising hunger alongside the presence of obesity, has given us a deeper understanding on the complexity of food security. And you have highlighted how right to food means right to life. And you have helped us understand how this community kitchens have helped the underprivileged classes in providing affordable food, and also created and employment opportunities for women and promoted their financial independence. So thank you so much, ma'am, for your insightful discussion. I would also like to sincerely thank Dr. Anjur Bhaskar for his thoughtful prologue, where he brought attention to the challenges faced by these food-loose groups who often lack access to regular meals. So his reflections on how this community and urban kitchens help bridge this gap by providing affordable and dignified access to food were truly insightful, sir. I also extend my sincere appreciation to Dr. Veronica Pala, ma'am, for chairing this session with grace and encouragement. And also, I thank Dr. Muhammad Murtaza for smoothly moderating the program. And on this special note, I extend my gratitude to Department of Economics, NEHU, and our respected HOD, Professor Chittaranjan Nayak, for organizing this wonderful lecture series, for creating such a meaningful platform for academic interaction and learning. And finally, I extend my sincere thanks to all the participants, the students, and my fellow scholars for your active presence and engagement, which made today's session truly successful. So with this, I conclude the session. Thank you, everyone, and have a pleasant day ahead.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Bye. Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.